welcome guys. So we've been kind of talking about mindfulness the last few weeks in this group and just expanding on that. I wanted to kind of focus on savoring this week. So I want to do a little exercise with mindful eating. I know you guys are hopefully all about chocolate. About milk chocolate and dark chocolate, so you guys can have your preference. But I kind of want to give a little intro of why I think this is important. So with addiction, which that's why we're all here, we know that with prolonged period of misuse, it impacts our pleasure systems in our brain. And with that, we struggle to experience usual pleasure. And so having an activity like this where we can practice re-engaging that part of our brain to experience regular pleasure just through an activity of eating chocolate. It may seem something like kind of stupid and simple, but I want you guys to kind of lean into that maybe discomfort of like, this seems stupid, and just notice that. And try not to judge it, but just be aware of it, and we can process that. So I'll pass this around for you guys. You can pick which one you want. For later.
Fully safe.
If you want to take one of each, that's totally fine. And another thing I want to just mention before we get started, we've talked a lot about craving with regards to specifically like your DOC, your drug of choice. But that also goes with cravings of food. But that also goes back to kind of the Buddhist concept of craving and clinging. And that's important when considering how we talked about impermanence and how every state is fleeting. You can't have something last forever, whether it's a positive or a negative state. And so savoring is the idea of really encompassing and taking in the present moment and trying to absorb the entirety of it, whether it's positive or negative, and accepting it in its entirety. And so while we're going through this, I want you guys to really try to really absorb this experience and what it's like to re-experience eating chocolate. And like for the first time, like you've never seen chocolate in your life. This is like a total new experience. So I'll begin, and hopefully you guys can gain something out of this. Okay. Sitting comfortably but regally as if you were a king or a queen, with your spine straight and belly relaxed, take a few breaths, then shift your attention to the piece of chocolate in your hand. Examine the chocolate as if you were seeing the chocolate for the very first time, as if you were from a foreign country and had never seen it before. Observe its color and its texture. Notice its weight or lightness in your hand. Slowly turn the chocolate so you can see it from different angles. How does it look from the different angles? Is it uniform, irregular, uneven? Look at it very closely as if you were looking at the chocolate through a microscope. Next, I want you to smell the chocolate. Notice the scent. Try to become aware of just the exact moment when you feel the urge to eat it. But don't eat it quite your attention to your mouth and to your stomach. Does the smell of the chocolate make your mouth fill with saliva? Notice any feelings of hunger, craving, or urge to eat the chocolate. What exactly do the feelings of hunger, craving, or urges feel like? Are they sensations of warmth or coolness, heaviness or lightness, tingling, tightness, emptiness? Where in your body do you exactly feel these sensations? Now, as you smell the chocolate, bring your attention to your own thoughts and feelings. Notice any thoughts, emotions, imaginations, or memories, but try not to get lost in them. Just make note of them and allow your attention to return to your body. Observe what it is like to have an urge to eat the chocolate, but to not eat it. Notice the state of mind and body that we call craving or urge. The craving or urge might grow stronger and bigger, like a wave out at sea, reaching a peak and then getting smaller and weaker until it fades away. With each passing moment, those feelings become weaker, or perhaps they may change in some way. Maintain a curious attitude about these feelings, just taking a few moments to notice what happens. Now begin to move your attention to your breath. Just noticing the breath. There's no need to try to change the breath. Just observe the movement. Perhaps becoming more aware of the sensations of air at the tip of the nose, at the lips. Noticing the place where the breath enters the body and any sensations of warmth or coolness there. Notice what it's like to have the air enter and exit your belly and your lungs. Whenever your mind wanders to cravings, urges, desires, thoughts, or emotions, that's okay. Minds wander. Just notice. And then return your focus back to the breath. You can use the breath as an anchor whenever the cravings become intense, and the thoughts, feelings, images, and sensations associated with the words cravings are like clouds passing in the clear blue sky. And the clear space of awareness, like clouds shifting gradually, changing shape, and then fading into the distance, dissolving into faint wisps of clouds before disappearing naturally on their own. Just watch those clouds coming, drifting, changing, and gently disappearing into the clear blue sky. The mind is like a sky, spotless, stainless, open, and vast, just watching and observing peacefully. You can return to this state of mindfulness whenever you need to, simply by bringing your attention back to the breath, back to your anchor. Now imagine that instead of holding that chocolate, you are holding your favorite booze or drug in your hand. You can see that drink or drug in your hand just a few inches from your face. You can see its color, what it looks like. You can even smell it, smell the scent that really reminds you of what it feels like to really enjoy that drink or drug. You begin to notice cravings building. Call into mind all the reasons why you want to stay free from alcohol and drugs. Remember how drinking alcohol and using drugs has caused serious problems in your life. Perhaps with your relationships, your job, your legal status, and your health. Then remember, your job will improve, your legal status, and your health. And whenever the mind wanders, as they do, just notice where the mind has wandered off to, and then let go. Remember why you want to stay free from drugs and alcohol. And just notice what it is like to do that. And with each passing breath, becoming more absorbed and becoming more aware. And whenever the mind wanders back to the craving, thoughts, or feelings, just noticing that the mind has wandered, letting go of those craving thoughts and feelings, and then gently returning the attention to the reason why you want to stay substance free. Again and again. Finally, return your attention to the chocolate. You can choose to not eat the chocolate as a symbol of your ability to stay substance free, even if you are still experiencing cravings. You can throw away the chocolate as a sign that you have the power to overcome cravings and urges to use. When you're ready, you guys can return your attention back to the group. That may have been a little cruel for me to open up this as if you guys were going to be having a mindful eating exercise. But I did that intentionally to really have you guys have to like embrace maybe the challenge of this exercise. So I just kind of want to open up a discussion of what that experience was like for you guys.
I think for me it felt easier only because of the group. Like I think if it was just me alone, I might, if it was like drugs, like do that because I'm by myself. But if I have like 5 or 6 of my friends here and they're all not doing it, like I don't know, made me feel like I could do it too.
Yeah, that kind of like speaks to the purpose of like group support,
Yeah.
like why we have group therapy. That's a really good point.
I found myself like wanting to eat it immediately, and then as time went on, it became easier to not. Although having it melt all over my fingers was not really helpful. Because I just really want to lick my fingers, so there's not chocolate. But like having the more time that, like the more we went through the process, it was easier to not eat it.
Do you have any insight of why you think that is?
I think like taking the time to really just allow that craving to be there and noticing that it just kind of like went away on its own.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't trying to make it go away because I was always anticipating like, yeah, I'm gonna be able to eat this chocolate eventually, but like it, I don't know, I just noticed my body was like the natural craving went away after.
Yeah. So it sounds like what you're saying is like once you accepted it and just like let the craving experience in your body, you naturally it went away on its own instead of trying to like force it out.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
I think it was kind of like you said in the meditation was just like, it's like a wave, like the craving, like it comes and then it goes. And it almost like reaches a peak too,
Yeah.
where it's like, okay, this is really hard, but then it's like, okay.
Right.
I thought it was interesting to notice where I felt the urge, because when I was holding it, I didn't want to taste it. But like my tongue just really wanted to feel the texture of it. So that was surprising to me. It wasn't a taste or like that specific sensation is what I wanted.
Yeah. Interesting. That's for sure.
For me, I felt a little frustrated throughout the process And like even like my fists were clenching a little bit because I was like, when are we gonna get chocolate? So when are we gonna get the chocolate? And I think what like brought me down a little bit is when you kind of accepted those thoughts coming in, and I started thinking about the other chocolate that I've had today. It was like, I actually don't really like need this. It smells really great, but do I actually like have to eat it? Not really.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
It makes me think like at the end, did you think I was gonna say like you can eat the chocolate now?
Yes, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, but that's a really good point as far as like when I was the one in control and had the power, you were kind of like, there was this resistance of like, I wanna eat it, but then when you're able to shift the mindset of like, oh wait, I'm actually in control here and this is my choice of like, do I even want this anymore? You were able to like fully switch gears of like, oh, this is my decision and I don't really even want this anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's like a really good, important, like empowered stance to approach your decisions. Do you guys feel like you can apply the same practice as far as, cause like refraining from a piece of chocolate versus like drugs might look very different, or alcohol. Do you feel like you can use like what you've learned or experienced in this practice to the magnitude of maybe like the urge of drinking or using? Does that feel like comparable?
Yeah, I'm like even just thinking about this experience where when I was really thoughtful about it, I realized there was a lot of things about chocolate I didn't crave. Like I didn't crave the taste, right?
Mhm.
There's just one specific thing. And I think that when I reflect on like my use as well, if I'm really mindful about it, I'll notice there's a lot of things about using that I don't like that maybe I wouldn't have realized before.
Right.
Because I'm so busy just trying to go for it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think like what's really cool about mindfulness is like the automaticity of like the urge of like we just think like, oh, this chocolate's in front of us, let's just eat it.
Yeah.
And we just are like so instinctive of like, oh, I have this thought and this urge, I'm just gonna do it. But when we can like slow down and observe that like we're not our thoughts and we have a choice of like, do I want to engage with this mental chatter that's happening in this brain of ours that produces these thoughts that brains do, but like that doesn't mean I have to respond just because there's some person up there telling me to do stuff. And at the end of the day, it's the same with something that's even more powerful is like drugs and all the other things that we wanna do in our life. Like we have the ultimate decision of like, just because I have this urge and this thought, I don't have to listen to that voice and I can like take a step back and decide to do something differently, even though it's really hard. By no means am I saying this is easy or comfortable. It's gonna be very uncomfortable, but I think being able to realize like there is space to do something different and you don't have to immediately just respond to the urges and the thoughts that we experience inside of us, so.
Yeah, I actually do agree, and I'm trying to link it to some of the habits that I have been trying to change to become a little better. Because when I was, dark chocolate is my thing, and when I started smelling, I was like, why are we even smelling this? And it reminded me of like, you know, when I ate it last, which is early last week, because now for iftar we do so many other sweets that I forget about, like, you know, eating the chocolate. And I'm like, wow, yeah, again, bringing it back to, like, you know, I abstain water and, like, you know, food, and I could probably, like, you know, do the same technique on things that I'm trying to actually change to become a little bit better. And yeah, it's really good, and I was feeling sensations in my stomach. I'm not for sure, I usually don't really feel body tensions or somatic, like, you know, feelings, but yeah, for whatever reason, I felt it in this. It's just like, you know, all the prompts that you were giving us, like the ways to go about it was like, wow, all right, this is starting to get to work. I think because of the length of the time you took to actually take us through this exercise, was like, all right, maybe if I sit down with all of my thoughts and then give it the time it needs, then it probably will work instead of just brushing it off and like, oh, this will never change, or if that makes
Yeah.
sense, so.
For sure, and that like raises a really good point, is like, you don't need me or this book to do this, like that's the great thing with mindfulness, is like, this is something that you can do with yourself at all times. It just takes like the awareness piece that I'm just gonna slow down throughout my day and like notice what I'm experiencing in my mind and my body and pause and like reevaluate, like, what decision do I wanna make next, and just like a little check-in with yourself, so that's a great point. Well, thanks, guys, is there anything else? Alright, well, you can take your chocolate, or you can throw it away, the choice is yours.
Thank you.
Yay, perfect.